Welcome to the Well-Rounded Grappler. I am your host, Coach Stanley. These episodes are dedicated to all my wrestlers, past, present, and future, as well as anyone that has helped me along the way. My hope is to give inspiration or motivation to anyone on their own grappling journey. On the Well-Rounded Grappler, we will be talking with various individuals from the grappling world, from coaches to competitors in wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, and sambo. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Well-Rounded Grappler. I am your host, Coach Stanley. This is a super exciting episode. It's technically my first episode. I went out and I interviewed the first state champion in Sun Valley history, Mr. Brian Belk. It was a great interview. He has an unbelievable amount of positive energy. He is a great coach, and I'd like to call him my friend. Let's go ahead and get right down to it with Brian Belk.
Hey, Coach Belk. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time.
It's an honor and a privilege, Coach Stanley. Thank you for reaching out, sir.
Yeah, so I thought that getting this series of interviews started with none other than the first state champion in Sun Valley history, that's a great place to start. And hopefully the things that we talk about, my wrestlers, past, present, and future, and can kind of listen in, especially the ones that are going to Sun Valley, and this can motivate them. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself in case anybody doesn't know you.
Well, Coach Stanley, my name is Brian Belk. I wrestled for Sun Valley 1986 through 1989 seasons. Was what we understand in record books to be the first state champion. 1988 in the 103-pound weight class, which was the first year of the 103-pound weight class. Prior to that, it was a 98-pound weight class. I'll go ahead and tell you, 86 to 89, the program was still pretty new. We were still learning.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know why they changed the weight classes like they do.
I'm sure there's some folks well above us that have done some studying, because I have a feeling, today's date, it would be hard to fill a 98-pound weight class, so there's usually somebody looking out there to see what's best for the program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that trophy case right outside of the wrestling room there, it's got your picture in there, Perry Long's picture, Duke Howell's picture in there. There's some other people in there that I don't know, but I'm going to definitely get to the bottom of it and get an invitation out to all of them to interview them. And I want this to go out to my wrestlers, past, present, and future. But then also, if anybody wants to listen to these, that's perfectly fine. Initially, that's what I'm dedicating it to. Some people have thrown out podcast. I don't know if I'd call it a podcast. It's just a set of interviews. Who's your coach? Didn't you say you had a different coach the first year compared to the rest of your seasons?
Well, here's a little bit of what we'll go through, a little bit of the history to explain how it worked. Mark Weicker was the physical education teacher at Sun Valley Middle School, 83 through 85. He is actually who introduced wrestling to myself and many of my friends, as he was our middle school PE teacher. We didn't actually have a program at the middle school at the time, but he introduced it during physical education as one of the sports that we were introduced to. Everybody knew basketball, everybody knew football, baseball, but he introduced us to wrestling. Mr. Weicker moved on. He moved a little north of Charlotte up to the Iredell County area after 85. I say unfortunately because he was a good man, but he was replaced by a good man also. Dr. Mike Webb took over the program in 86, and as my understanding, that was his first year out of college. Moved down from Ohio. So Mike Webb was the coach from 86 through 89 while I was there, and then several years after. I don't know the exact year that he stepped out of the coaching role. But Mark Weicker began the program in 1983, was there 3 years until Mike Webb took over in 1986. And Mike Webb was our coach for the 4 years that I was in high school.
You got introduced to wrestling in PE class, which is kind of a no anymore, which is kind of odd because I would definitely teach wrestling in PE if I could, but a lot of districts have kind of shied away from it, and I don't know why, because we both know that wrestling has less injuries and is safer than just about every other sport. What other sport are you on a mat?
Yes, sir.
I actually looked up the statistic once. I think wrestling falls about 10th place out of all high school sports as far as injuries during the season. It's ranked 10th. I was kind of shocked. I thought I'd be in the top 5, but it's not. It's pretty crazy. So you started out wrestling in the middle school PE class, and then your first day of actual real wrestling was
9th grade. Yes, sir.
Was in 9th grade, yeah. So
yes, sir.
You started in 9th grade and you were still able to win a state championship.
Yes, sir. So I'll tell you, Coach Weicker was very kind. He took Michael Smith and myself, one of my best friends through school. We were very small for our class at the time, and he kind of took us under his wing. He allowed us to come up to the high school with him, keep score, kind of be what today's date would be called your team managers. So he piqued our interest by letting us get involved in a very small level, but still allowed us to watch wrestling right on the side of the mat, right at the edge of the mat, keeping score, being involved. So that really, for a small guy to be able to see there's a small guy versus a small guy, there's, which you touched on weight classes, really piqued my interest that, yeah, that's the sport for me. I'd tried baseball, couldn't hit the home runs. I'd tried football. I'll tell you, 88 pounds freshman year, start of season. That gives you an idea how small I was starting my freshman year of wrestling. But I knew there was a chance for me because the guy standing on the other side of the circle wasn't going to be more than 98 pounds at the time. Right.
And I try to tell this to, because there's a handful of really small kids that are walking around Sun Valley and other schools that I've been. And I'm like, hey, there's a sport out there for you that you'll be able to face people your own size. You won't get benched. It's not because you're not tall enough or you're not strong enough or you're not heavy enough. It's just something that's wonderful that you should go ahead and try. Sometimes you get them out and sometimes you don't. But it's one sport where really all body types and all sizes are able to be successful, which I really like about the sport.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's what caught my eye in middle school. It's what piqued my attention is that here's a chance for me to compete with someone my size, head to head, and just see how it works out.
So when did you start realizing that you were a standout wrestler?
Well, I'll be honest, it was late sophomore year, making it into the semifinals of the state tournament. Never even envisioned it, that I realized, okay, yeah, I really can compete at this sport on a level at the state championship tournament. Up until there, I just kind of felt like I was growing and thought I was getting strong. I knew I was getting stronger and I was getting faster. You learn more every day in practice, but it was at that time making it to the semifinals of the state tournament as a sophomore before my first loss of the season.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So take us back to freshman year then. So you get on the mat. How'd the first couple of matches go? And did you guys have a JV level or was it varsity right off the bat?
Well, we did have JV level, but to be honest with you, being a small guy, I started right off match one. Started match one because as you know, sir, it's hard to fill 14 weight classes.
Yeah.
So fortunately for me, getting started as a freshman, which nowadays that's way late in the game. Me starting, as an 88 pounder, there was a spot for me, the 98 pound weight class. So I feel like it was fortunate. I was thrown into the fire quickly, and I can tell you, I went out there and competed. I don't know for sure that I was mentally ready. I think our coach had us physically ready. Our workouts were very intense. That's kind of what changed the shape of Sun Valley Wrestling in a quick time period. One of the things, and I don't mean to jump too far ahead, one of the things I'm most proud of is that from freshman year to sophomore year, we went from getting beat up pretty handily in our conference to conference champs sophomore, junior, senior year. I'll tell you, I really feel like it was based on physical conditioning. none of us started in elementary school, middle school. We were introduced to it at a high school age, and that's very late in life to get started in wrestling. But I think we did it just based on physical conditioning.
Sure, absolutely. So that first time, was it still up in Greensboro, the state championship, or was it somewhere else?
It was in Chapel Hill at the Dean Dome.
So you're at the Dome, sophomore year, didn't think you were going to get there, get to the semis. You come back the next year. Did you ever start envisioning yourself being a state champion, or did it kind of happen, or what? How did that journey go?
I'll tell you, I didn't ever really see myself winning the state championship. I thought I was competitive. I felt like at a local level was doing well, winning some tough matches and pulling through. Didn't ever see quite getting to the top of the podium. I felt like I had it. I had the work ethic, had the desire. It just came together for me. 1988 season, come back a one-loss season as a sophomore to, it just so happened the two guys that finished ahead of me moved up a weight class. So I'll tell you that quite honestly how it happened. The two of them hadn't moved up a weight class. You may be talking to somebody else today.
So was that your junior year that you won?
Yes, sir.
And was that an undefeated season?
Yes, sir. Undefeated season. So one loss season as a sophomore and carried through to finish it as a junior. Did not win as a senior. I moved up a weight class, went up a little heavier than I needed to be, and we'll go into that story a little bit as this interview proceeds.
So that junior year, you're on fire, you're doing well, You're undefeated, you get up there. I mean, what's kind of going through your head as you go through the matches in the state series that year?
Well, I'll tell you, this will lead into some other questions later on in the interview, and some of the kids will really be that listen to this will be baffled. I knew my bracket when I got to Chapel Hill Friday morning. We had paper brackets posted in the hallways. You went and found your bracket, and you looked to see where you were placed and who was on your side of the bracket and who was on the other side of the bracket. Because we didn't have the technology of before. I just knew I had taken on every opponent day by day. Got there that morning and realized the two guys that finished ahead of me sophomore year weren't in my bracket. And I know that seems odd to kids as much as they study and scout and so forth. I just took it day by day, match by match. I just saw, well, those two aren't here. Let's just see who else is here. And that weekend happened to be my weekend.
That's great. Back then, I mean, there were obviously some off-season stuff going on. There was places you could go. There's colleges that you could go for camps and things like that. What did you do in the off-season?
Each summer, we did a one-week team camp where we traveled as a team to a camp. It was a great bonding experience. I don't see a lot of that now. A lot of young athletes go individually, but we went as a team camp to Old Dominion, Tennessee, some of the places that weren't terribly far away for a summer camp. We had one dad out of our group that would pile us in the back seat of his Oldsmobile, and on Saturdays we would ride to Greensboro, Davie County. We would ride somewhere and enter in a wrestling tournament over the summer. You didn't know who was going to be there. You didn't know how, if it was going to be freestyle, folk style, whatever. We'd just go and we'd sign up, pay our $20 and see what happened. I know it's going to seem odd to the young folks nowadays, but we just rolled the dice, got in the car and went. There was plenty of weight room days on the weekends. I loved to run. Running wasn't a begrudgment thing to me. Staying in shape out of season was never a challenge. It was just something I enjoyed, particularly seeing the growth that could happen from starting wrestling 88-pounder November 1st of 1985 to placing third in the state, the 86-87 season, winning 88. I saw that putting the work in made the difference. It was easy to push yourself.
I put in here about comparing wrestling in the late 80s, maybe even early 90s compared to now. What sort of things have stayed the same in any aspect of wrestling at all?
Well, it's still one-on-one. It's a no excuse sport. Can't say somebody else blew the coverage, somebody else dropped the ball. It's yours to win, it's yours to lose. That's never going to change. I'll always feel like it's the toughest sport on the planet. It's the most rewarding if you put the work into it. One of the things, I saw, or I see as a difference, and it could very well be different in other states where wrestling was popular before the 80s. Here in North Carolina, it was just becoming popular in the 80s, and I felt like we were very elementary, very basic in what we did. Just a physical group. But our big thing was to be in shape, learn a few moves, and make it to 6 minutes and come out on top. Where today I watch a lot of wrestlers that are so technically savvy and sound. Things we never thought of. We didn't ride legs or tilt. We were looking to put in a half or cradle. Anything other than that, we were just looking to out-physical you. But nowadays, I really see a better mental game in the sport of wrestling.
So after high school then, what did you do? I never asked if you wrestled in college, did you?
I did not, sir. I passed up the opportunity to wrestle. When I hung up the phone with the coach that offered me a scholarship, my dad was standing there looking at me, because this will, again, go back to what'll really blow some kids' minds. I'm standing in the kitchen on a corded phone, telling the coach, thanks anyway, but I really have a strong desire to go to NC State, and that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to study. And my father stood there and said, well, you know what, you just passed up, so don't plan on stepping on a wrestling mat again. If I got to pay, you're going to focus on your studies, and that's what I did. So I went on to NC State and decided to pour my energy into my studies and get a degree, and pursued that and accomplished it. Nothing I would change, because I'll tell you this, and I admire all those that do go on to college and wrestle. I was 108 pounds as a senior. I believe the lowest weight class at the collegiate level was 118 pounds back in 89-90 season. I just didn't have it to compete at that level. At that time, there wasn't a weight class for me. I was still just too small. It's nothing I wouldn't have done if I would have been bigger and felt like I could have competed. I think I probably would have pursued it, taken that scholarship opportunity and tried it. But I just didn't have the size, sir. Just didn't. I had the heart. I had the want to, just didn't have the size.
So you went up to NC State, you graduated, and then I'm sure just like every wrestling person out there, you got the itch a little bit. When did you come back into wrestling? How did that go in the first couple of years back?
I'll be honest with you. Stayed away for quite a while, a little longer than you can imagine. 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. I graduated, got the first job, decided to, just like I did in wrestling, I wanted to be the best at whatever I did. I wanted to push to be the best at everything I did. Poured myself into my work to exceed, make more money, get the promotions, drive, married, raised 3 children, always, pushing hard to be the best at whatever I was doing. I'm at home one night, October of, I didn't do my research on this year, but I'll tell you, my son, as a freshman at Piedmont, decides he wants to pick up wrestling as a freshman. And that was the spark, Coach Stanley. I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh gosh, you want to wrestle. We leave that night, drive to the sporting goods store, get shoes, get knee pads, headgear, mouthpiece, because he had braces. The fire was lit again. There it was. That's all I needed to hear. My son wants to wrestle. I'm going to give everything I can to it. Fortunately for me, Coach Jamie Belk had heard as I'd go and watch practices, because like I said, the fire's relit. I've seen the mat again. I've seen them roll around. It's go time. He knew I was fired up, and he asked. We were at a tournament. There was JV wrestling in a auxiliary gym, which we didn't have auxiliary gyms in the 80s, and there was varsity wrestling in the main gym. And he said, "Sir, you mind helping encouraging the JV wrestlers a little bit and step in the room?" And that was 8 years ago. This will be my 9th season. I walked out of the stands and became a coach. Been one of the most amazing blessings in my life.
So in that 25 years that you stepped away, how much did you think about wrestling?
Oh, continually. It was always following the papers. Again, no track wrestling. Following the newspaper, see how the sport's going. My parents would constantly collect the newspapers for me to keep me in the loop, see how it was going. I always knew, try to keep up. How was Perry doing? How did Duke do? And then as I got older, to be honest, became a little disconnected after those that I wrestled with, those that were on my team. After they graduated, became a little more disconnected because it was raising a family, you know, working, and to be honest, didn't follow it as much. Plus, I moved to the other side of town. As you know, I live on the Piedmont side of town now, so didn't really feel like I could just step in the door at Sun Valley and see what I could do to help.
Sure.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So now that you're in the coaching realm, how would you compare it as far as when you were a competitor? What's the mindset like now when you're looking on the sidelines, coaching from the chair instead of being out there?
I'll tell you, and I'm just going to be brutally honest, I love being a competitor much better because I knew how hard I worked was a direct result of how well I did. You can see the most amazing potential in our young athletes today, but it's only potential if they don't have the drive to go with it.
Oh, absolutely.
You got to have the willpower, the work ethic, and the drive. You can't want it for them. So to be honest, that's the toughest part about coaching. There's so many rewards. There's so many days. It is incredibly rewarding. The hard part is seeing that young athlete that you know has the ability to do more, to do better, just doesn't have the work ethic, doesn't have the drive, doesn't have the want to. That's the toughest part of coaching. That's why I like competing better. It's heartbreaking to see one of our athletes go out there and underachieve only because he underprepared.
Absolutely. Let's take a little bit of a step back and go off of, talk about Duke and Perry a little bit. I know this wasn't on the questions, but how would you describe them when you were their teammate? Did you see something special in them? Were they go-getters right off the bat? Or when either Perry or Duke won the championship, you know, were you surprised at all? Did you see it coming?
You know, with Duke, no, wasn't surprised. He was a go-getter. He was the heavyweight when I was the 98. We were the bookends. We kind of fired each other up. I started it. He finished it. Those are just little sayings we've come up with over the years as we still remain friends. He just had it. He had that competitive edge. Perry and I, this is a story not many know. We grew up on the same road. We were opposite ends of Love Road, and I saw work ethic in Perry. Perry and I would pass each other late evenings, middle of the night, out jogging from one end of the road to the next, just putting in the extra work. We would pass. They see you on the way back by. I knew then, all right, that kid's something special. To be honest, didn't know if he quite had the ability to be the state champ. It made it even more special when he did come back from that late season injury to win the state championship. And to be honest, nothing against Duke or myself or anybody else. Perry is the Sun Valley success story in my mind. Perry overcame some adversity and the odds, won a state championship, most outstanding wrestler, proceeded to coach at Davie County. I know within the last 2 or 3 years, received Teacher of the Year award, took over an amazing program as a head coach, didn't drift away from the sport as I did. Perry, in my mind, I admire so much of what he's done with his life. To see someone who may not have been quite as serious early in his career to really turn it around, put in the work, and the work paid off. He's poured his heart into it ever since.
That's great. Before I came to North Carolina, because I've only been here a year, I did my homework. I literally found places with job openings, and I would email the head coach and just ask, if I move from Illinois to here, what am I going to expect? Do you like living here? Do you enjoy the school system? Tell me about things in the county, things about administration. Just, would I be happy if I come here, basically? And Perry Long was one of the people that I called. I could tell within 60 seconds that I already liked the guy. He's got this incredible energy that you don't see in a lot of people. And I asked Duke the same thing. Was Perry like that in high school as well?
Oh, like I said, yeah, Perry had incredible energy. And it's something that I had a first-hand experience in seeing. He put in the work. He took his energy. He was happy, and he put in the work. He had the energy to do it and make the best of the opportunity that was put before him and come out of it smiling.
That's great. I like Perry a lot. He's a good guy. He was at the camp that we put on at Sun Valley with Michael, and I talked with him on the phone and seen him at tournaments throughout the year. He's just a great guy.
Good spirit and a great story.
That's neat. I'm also going to have him on here as well to do an interview. We're kind of working on some dates. So back to the coaching aspect. You're away from the sport for 25 years. Kind of got disconnected. That first year that you got back when your son started wrestling and you were watching that first JV match, what did you discover wrestling was like these days?
I'll be as honest as I can be. The moves are so much more advanced. I still haven't caught up. Being out of the sport for 25 years and knowing that we came from our basic, crude, elementary beginning was halves, cradles, and double leg takedowns. We were very, very simple. To seeing it now, I realize I may be a little underqualified in my knowledge, but I'll give it everything I can with my heart to encourage and be there to pick them up when they fall, show them they're loved, and tell the kids, let's not give up. That I could do missing 35 years away from the mat. The moves, I'm still working. I'm still trying to catch up. Yeah. There's a lot that went flying by in that hiatus I took from the sport. The kids have a lot more opportunities, so much more. There's so many more. There was no club wrestling. They have so much better opportunities to exceed and excel if they just want it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree completely. So you're watching your son out there, and you talked about how that competition is still burning bright in your soul. You get out there, you watch your son wrestling the first time. How much did you want to just come out there and just show him how it's done?
Well, I'll be quite honest. For the first few years of coaching, that was me, a burning passion to be at practice in my shoes, knee pads, shorts, and T-shirt. Now, I've surpassed my 50 since I started wrestling, so I don't do that as much anymore. But the first few years, I think I kind of thought that was my job every day, was to see how many kids I could wrestle at wrestling practice, just because it was so refreshing to get back on the mat. It's exhilarating because the one-on-one competitiveness, the energy you burn, the satisfaction of the amazing workout, the bonds you make, it's incredible. So that's what it sparked in me. I did jump back on the mat. Like I said, I've had to pull back from that with my age and realize that's not going to happen every day like it used to. It'll happen occasionally, but not every day.
I don't think you mentioned what was your career?
Oh, my career. And I'll tell you, I studied textiles because at the time in the late 80s, textiles was booming here in the South. It was a big, big industry. Unfortunately, NAF passed, so all you kids listening can do a little research on that. It really hurt a lot of industry that was here. Cannon Mills, Fieldcrest Cannon, a lot of those places. So I went after something I felt like would keep me close to home and could still be right here and pursue a career, although that's changed. With the textile industry leaving the area, that was my goal. I remember standing at Sun Valley High School in the media center, and 3 gentlemen came down from NC State in suits and ties and told their little spiel about 95% of the students graduate, get placed in jobs, making X amount of money. The jobs are available everywhere, so if you want to be home, you want to move north, you want to move south, the jobs are there, lifetime place. They gave the perfect pitch to, here we go. That's my career, and this is the only place I want to live. So that's what I went after.
Awesome. And I tell the kids all the time about how the things that you learn in wrestling are going to translate into your adulthood. It's going to translate into your job career, your military career, your college career, anything. And I've been coaching long enough to where I have had wrestlers come back as adults. Some of them even helped me out in Illinois, not here, obviously. And they're like, Coach, you know what? Some of the stuff you said, you were right. So it's interesting. Yeah. Because I'm all about the mental game as well. So talk about the mental game. What does mental toughness mean to you?
And I'll tell you, you touched on something I want to jump right back to for just a second.
Sure.
Something I missed, the difference in wrestling in the 80s versus wrestling today. Wrestling in the 80s, I remember we had 13 weight classes, and we weighed in 13 kids, and that's who you knew was going to step on the mat at each weight class. Everybody else was just JV. They got preliminary matches or whatever we could work in. The chess match that goes into a wrestling match today is incredibly different. It's amazing. You weigh in everybody on the roster because you never know who's going to go in based on who gets placed on the mat first in coin toss. I don't remember coin toss meaning anything but who got choice in the second period, third period, because we had 13 guys. We had a wrestle off the day before each match, and that was our starting lineup. So that's a big thing I think that's changed in the sport. And I think it's had to change because here's one thing a lot of folks don't realize. In North Carolina, there was no dual team championship until maybe 90 or 91. If there was a regret, but not one that I could do anything about, is that dual team championships weren't in place in the 80s.
Because you think Sun Valley would have placed.
I know.
You know. Maybe even won it.
Yes, sir. I feel very confident.
How many classes?
There was 4 divisions, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A.
Oh,
so
wow.
there was a lot of changes mid-80s to the early 90s. I know in 86, my freshman year, there was 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, but in wrestling, they didn't separate. You had one tournament, one champion. So it made it a little tougher. Everybody was combined, didn't matter what size school. Between my sophomore and junior year, they changed the weight classes. And then right after I graduated in the 90 or 91 season, they realized the need for a dual team, which I think it made that chess match out of a wrestling match even more important once the dual team tournament was implemented. I feel like we were solid through and through. As I said, I was the only state champion during that 4 years, but I felt like as a team, our physical and mental toughness was strong enough. As I said, we won handily a conference sophomore, junior, senior year. Coming from a sport that was still very, very new to Sun Valley, it turned in a hurry because of want to. Out of more than 13 wrestlers, there was 13 that started each time, but the want to was there. The drive was there.
Awesome.
The mental toughness, to me, it's being able to come back from the injury. It's being able to overcome that, oops, I got caught in that 5-point move first period, come back and win the match. It's able to come back in place after you lose a match you didn't think you were going to, but you're still going to finish the tournament strong. Mental toughness is, there's a physical limit we all have, but pushing yourself to break that limit down and create a new limit. Yourself. I say pushing yourself. That's the mental toughness. The coach can scream at you and holler at you all day. He can't want it for you. He can't make you do more than you can physically do. But mental toughness to me is being able to overcome and pushing yourself to break those walls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the people that wrestle that don't necessarily do the best as far as wins and losses, you talk to them later on as adults, and they're more mentally tough than the average person. You know, even if they didn't have a successful career in wrestling, just the fact that they went out there and put it all on the line and got beat up every day for 4 years and stuck it out for all 4 years, it really pays off. It's incredible. Because I had a kid, his name's Phil Marks. He didn't start wrestling until he was freshman or sophomore. And I coached him for a couple years, and then I had left his senior year. Great kid, but just as far as wins, losses, didn't do very good his first year. You know, won a handful of matches. Second year, about the same. His senior year, he did have a little bit of success. He went on to the Army, and we were talking about boot camp and things like that, and he said, "Coach, I made it through boot camp pretty easily because I survived wrestling season." So, you know, and he contributes it all to the things that he learned in wrestling. So it's something that I try to tell kids, and I talk to kids that want to get into the military. I talk with kids that want to get into police force, firefighter, or even being a carpenter. Anything where you're using your hands and your physical, I try to tell them, I'm telling you, if you come out for wrestling, I guarantee you're going to be physically and mentally prepared for what you're going to do. Try to take advantage of it now. Get prepared for it now. So it's not as shocking whenever you get to the age to where you do go off to boot camp or whatnot, or you go off to the police academy. You know, start getting the stuff now, and you'll be amazed how much easier it is when you get there and how much of an upper hand you're going to have over the people around you.
You know, Coach, I've often thought if those 3 gentlemen from NC State hadn't showed up in their suits with their perfect little spiel about recruiting NC State School of Textiles candidates, that the military was for me. And often thought the same thing that you're describing in Phil. I would love to have walked into boot camp and taken it by the horns, knowing the physical conditioning that wrestling and the mental preparedness that wrestling had me in, and just seeing where life could have taken me there. I have no regrets in what I did. I just know that often I think that because I was a wrestler, I could have handled any challenge.
I refer to wrestlers as modern day gladiators, modern day Spartans, because I try to tell kids the history of wrestling and things like that. At every single warrior class in history, you got the Mongols, the Turks, the Persians, the Egyptians, the Russians, all these people, even Native Americans, they all had wrestling as the base for their defenses in war. They all did wrestling. It's been around since the first Olympic Games. It's been on the battleground. It's been on the battleground since the beginning of time. And wrestling really is a self-defense. And I try to tell the kids all this stuff. You know, it's got such a deep history. You know, you got people wrestling in the Bible, people wrestling in the hieroglyphics, in the Great Pyramids. You got cave drawings of people wrestling. I mean, it's something that surpasses time almost.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, in a quick amount of time, you are spot on with the years and years and years, hundreds and thousands of years of history of how wrestling has played an impact on the military strategies. Simply what it did for me, I went from the tiniest kid in class, front left corner of every class picture, kindergarten through 12th grade, all the way through elementary and middle, was the shy kid that stood in the back, just didn't hardly have a word to say because I was so tiny and so undersized. Ran for student council after I tried wrestling, became class student body president, all because of the confidence in wrestling that wrestling gave me. Completely changed my life, which in turn gave me the confidence to go on to college, the confidence in the workplace each and every day.
That's awesome. Let's talk about a couple things that you view that makes a good wrestler, or things that you would tell people that want to try wrestling or get better at wrestling. So what are the characteristics of somebody in your mind that's a good wrestler?
You know, a good wrestler's got to be self-disciplined in two ways. As I mentioned before, you got to be able to push yourself past what are your current physical limits to set the next physical limit. The other thing in self-discipline, it's not fighting. A good wrestler's got to be self-disciplined in his behavior. A good wrestler's got to be a good listener, a good learner, and a good teammate. Even though it's a one-on-one sport, you need that wrestler on your team that's better than you to push you. The wrestler that's not quite as good as you, that's a little smaller than you, needs you to push him. So a good wrestler, first, you've got to be self-disciplined. You've got to be able to control yourself. You've got to be a good teammate for the guy above you and the guy below you. To me, it's well-rounded in being a good wrestler. It's not just about your wins. It's about what do you give your team. Because I'll tell you this right now, the handful of close friends I still have from the high school era are wrestlers, are wrestling teammates. It's a bond for life because we respected each other.
Absolutely. You can either view it as when you were wrestling or nowadays when you're on the other side, on the coaching side, but if a wrestler wants to get to the next level, what does they need to do?
Take advantage of the clubs. Club wrestling's a year-round opportunity. Do it. Because one of the things you've touched on, you're going to have a first-year wrestler and you're going to have a eighth-year wrestler. In the room as a coach, you've got to coach the whole team. You can't coach that guy that's at the peak of everything you've got to give him. Because, Coach, I will just use myself as an example. I don't have every move, every answer to everything. Go to the clubs where the guys that haven't left the sport, they're at. They're willing to share their knowledge. Go to camps. Go to the off-season tournaments. And when in the off-season tournaments, be ready to lose. Step up a notch. Don't take the easy road. Wrestle the tough bracket. You know, in the off-season particularly, wrestle the tough bracket where you got the potential losses, where you've got the hard-fought matches. Better yourself. Wrestle the bigger guy in the room. But for the foremost, what you need to do to excel is use your clubs, your camps, and your off-season tournaments.
Awesome. So I got two imaginary people that approach you. One has never wrestled before, we'll just say a freshman in high school, sees you around the school, knows that you coach wrestling, and he says, Coach, I was thinking about trying wrestling. What do you say to him?
I say, come meet your new family. Son, it won't be easy. You're starting out, you're a freshman in an established program. It's not going to be easy. I don't want to fool you. But come out and watch yourself grow. You will grow, you will learn, and you will have family bond for life. You may not win every match. You're not going to win every match. But if you come, you'll be better than you were the day before you got here.
Okay. That person takes that to heart, thinks about it, shows up the first week. What else are you going to tell them now that they've actually shown up and they're trying it and they said they want to try it for a week? What are you going to tell them to keep them encouraged or about what wrestling can do for them?
I'm going to tell you, that's the young athlete that you're going to pay more attention to when the coach says, all right, let's everybody hit single legs. 5 times you go, 5 times the other guy goes. You run to that young wrestler and say, it's all right. I know you hadn't done a single leg before, but let's walk through it and break it down step by step. That young man, you don't want to see them get discouraged over terminology. If you can just get them to try, get through the physical part of it. The physical part's tough enough. The last thing I want to do is lose a young athlete to being overwhelmed mentally. Because if they can physically tough it out, that's our job as coaches to get them, to coach them, to make them better. So that's the big worry I have out of a first year wrestler. I may be wrong, I may be seeing it wrong, but that's the concern I have out of the youngest wrestler in the room.
No, that's a really good point. I've maybe thought about that before, but it maybe would be kind of in the background. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you're talking with these wrestlers, what are you telling them about wins and losses? What do they need to focus on?
Well, competing. Wins and losses, I know when it comes down to the end of the season, regional placement, your record is important. But wins and losses aren't as important as learning and getting better, especially if you're the younger wrestler. You're the new guy. We're not worried about wins and losses. We're worried about exercising what we've learned in practice. We're worried about getting stronger, understanding how to use what we learned in practice in a match. If you lose and you don't learn anything, that's a really bad loss. If you lose and you learn something, it's not a total loss. Don't focus on wins and losses. Focus on getting better. Now, you more experienced wrestlers, unfortunately, you're not going to get that out of their heads. Wins and losses is everything because they're worried about seeding in the late season tournaments. The tournaments that come later in the season, they know the better seed means the better road. So it's kind of hard to beat that out of their heads.
No, I hear you. This is kind of going out there on a different tangent and something that's just my opinion, but sometimes you see kids and maybe coaching staff or their family or whatever see an opportunity to maybe bump up a weight class because it's going to be easier, like at the state tournament. Like I see a kid will wrestle 132 all year, and then they take a look at that bracket, which back to what you were saying, you didn't even know what the bracket was before that day, but now they do, and they try to bump them up because it's going to be an easier road. Me personally, I think that they should take the more difficult road because the amount of just, at least for me, satisfaction that I got from winning tournaments that were tough compared to winning tournaments that were not that tough are completely different. Because some of my favorite memories from grappling, and mine is more of a judo background, but there were times that I'd be out there and go into war with people. And I remember those matches, and some of them I won and some of them I lost. But if he beat me, he had to beat me. We were out there for an all-out war. If I just went out there and pinned him in 15 seconds, I didn't think it was really that special. It was just, okay, well, I was just better, I guess. But the ones where they were wars, the ones that I earned those spots, I earned those wins, I earned that gold medal, those are the matches that I like. I just don't like that philosophy of, well, let's put him in an easy bracket so he can win. Me personally, I just don't like that.
I don't at all. I'm with you. I'm not going to say in regionals or states, if a kid doesn't see an opportunity to win a state championship and he can bump up a weight class, I'm not sure how I'd talk him out of that unless he had a teammate he was pushing out of a spot. Sure. When it comes to every tournament throughout the season, I knew nothing other than wrestling finding the toughest. If I was at 98, I could wrestle a 105 tournament. When the weight class went to 103, if I could get up to 104 pounds, I could wrestle in the 119-pound tournament. And that happened many a times if that was where the best wrestler was that was going to be at that tournament. And I couldn't agree with you more. Those were the most satisfying wins. When you bumped up to try to find the best guy so that you were that much more prepared. Because to me, I'll be honest, a tournament was like a vacation day most of the time. As tough as we practiced, as hard and as long as we practiced, a match day or a tournament day was almost a vacation. So you wanted the best match you could get to make it worth all the work you'd put in.
I like that a lot. You touched on a little bit about yourself, how you would see Perry running the streets with you, running past each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you were putting in work outside of the wrestling room.
Yes, sir.
What do you think wrestlers need to do outside of the wrestling room in order to be successful? It doesn't even have to be necessarily to be a wrestling champion. Could be to be a champion at life, whatever. What do they need to do outside of the room?
Oh, well, you got to find the willpower and the drive to make yourself better. That, then like we touched on before, that may mean going to club and taking the whoopings, taking the beatings. It may mean you've got to study yourself and figure out, am I freezing during a match because I'm so out of shape that I can't think? Or is it that my mental game, every wrestler is going to have a different thing he needs to work on, whether it be your wind, your air, your conditioning, getting in better shape so that you can make it that 6 minutes at your fullest drive. Or maybe it's to go to camp or a club because you're not able to execute the moves when the pressure's on. So you need to go to a club wrestling where somebody's way better than you and you can exercise those moves. So to me, taking advantage of these clubs, and there's numerous clubs all around the area, is what gets you to the next level in wrestling. Because right now, and as a coach, your time's limited. You can only practice for so long. You've got a first-year kid, and you might have an eighth-year kid. So go to the club, go to the weight room, run on your own, push yourself, because I can only push you for a couple hours a day.
Absolutely. So I don't know in our time if they're going to create a time machine or not, but if they do, what would you go back to freshman year Brian Belk and tell him?
Take it a little more serious. There was not one bit of practice that I tried to duck or dodge. I thoroughly enjoyed the physical conditioning and the growth physically that happened that year. I didn't quite grow mentally enough until it was too late. As I said, there was 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A all put together. Went to the sectionals. They had sectionals then in Charlotte. First round was lose and go home. I lost my very first match in sectionals to a kid that went on to be a state placer. Find that out 3 weeks later, and boy, did it sting. It hurt, because I'll be honest, my head that weekend was on, when are we going camping again? When are we going fishing again? When are we going, me and my buddies, when are we going doing other than wrestling? Not realizing that's 1/4 of your high school career. Make the best of it. You don't get a do-over.
I like that.
I would go back to my freshman year and say, take that match a little more serious. Don't look for the end of season to be earlier than the state championship. I wouldn't have won a state championship, but you understand what I'm saying. I was looking. It had been a tough year. We practiced hard. We practiced long hours. Hours that obviously at the time we didn't have the restrictions like we do now. And in my mind, okay, I put this in worked out for 4 months. I'm ready for a break. I wanted the break earlier than the break needed to be. And it's something that's haunted me for a long time. That maybe I'd have done better as a sophomore had I had that desire as a freshman to compete had a little more willpower that year. If I'd have seen what it tasted like to make it to regionals, to make it to states, might have made a difference. Don't know, but I know the feeling I had at the Lawson sectionals that day was almost relief. Okay, season's over. What are we going to go do tonight? What are we doing this weekend? Fishing, hunting, whatever. to finding out 3 weeks later the kid that beat me was a state placer. The potential was there, but the drive and the want to wasn't.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting ready to wrap it up here. I really appreciate your time. I hope that some of the wrestlers take advantage of this and listen to it. Knowing the history about where your program comes from, and, you know, the kids have seen you all around the place at tournaments and matches and stuff. They need to know things like, look, there's a state champion from Sun Valley. It can be done. He was the first one to get it done. Didn't think that he was going to be a state champion, but decided to put in the work and make history. And the fact that you're still in wrestling, what'd you say, 35 years later, still involved in the sport, you know?
Yes, sir.
So any parting words, any encouraging words that anybody that's listening, you can share with them as we finish up here?
Yeah. And as we've touched on, if you're considering it, just do it. Stick it out. It'll improve every facet of your life. It'll even make you better at other sports. Even if wrestling's not your primary sport, it'll make you better at football, track, your reaction time for baseball, whatever the other sport is. You'll find out that wrestling makes you a better person. For those seasoned wrestlers, when you got the new guy come in, take the opportunity, share some experience, some of the knowledge you have, and encourage them not to give up, because that may be your best friend 25 years from now. You're at Sun Valley helping coach.
I like that.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Again, thank you for your time. Once I figure out kind of what put these interviews on, like as far as what platform, I'll make sure that you get a link to it. And then if any of your wrestlers want to listen to it, or Jamie wants to listen to it, or just whoever, once I get that done, I'll let you know.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Coach. I feel it's an honor and a privilege. Honestly, I didn't see myself winning a state championship. To be Sun Valley's first state champion is an honor. I feel very privileged to even be in the same thought and breath as Perry, Duke, the other state champions that followed, because I really feel like I didn't have the opportunities that you guys do today, and had to do it out of sheer willpower and without all of these extra opportunities.
Okay. Well, thanks again for your time, Coach Belk. I'll definitely see you around, if not during the wrestling season, before.
Yes, sir. Coach Stanley, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
You too, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.